Let's dive in to the NBA champion, Denver Nuggets. Let's let the air horns are just going, man. We won, and dominating performance throughout the course of the playoffs, coming out on top. The Nuggets just mowed down everybody with a 94-89 closeout game. Close one, actually, at this last one, where it was close within the last minute and a half of this game. But they finally, after 47 years, get their first NBA title. Scotty, we've been waiting for this, man. The Denver, Colorado, man, is a very good sports city. And we've been wanting the Denver Nuggets to get into that upper echelon with a championship. And they've had some historic teams. They've had some historic players that have just never got it done. And, here we are, 2023, and we could call ourselves NBA champions. Not only that, Nikola Jokic proved everybody that he's one of the best players in the world at this point. Becomes the first player in history to lead the league in 600 points, 269 rebounds, and 190 assists in a single postseason. Almost getting that triple-double, which has never been done, but just a couple assists short of that. However, that doesn't change the fact
that's what happens when you go 5 for 28 in the final game. Can't get assists when he's kicking out to bricks.
Yeah, no, and so let's before we dive into everything, we're going to talk about what this means for Jokic and what this means for the Nuggets as a franchise moving forward. There's a lot of dynasty talk out there, so I want to address that, and then also just how this looks again moving forward and what we expect to see next year as well. So first of all, let's just break down this game, Scotty. This was a crazy grindy game. At one point, both teams were just shooting absolutely awful. But what's interesting is I was on the phone at halftime because I was at this game and it was electric. And I got some people around me in my seats, and I had, folks in my house, i.e. our brother-in-law and our father-in-law, kind of worried at halftime. And I was never worried because when I looked up and I saw the box score and I saw the team stats of this game at halftime, it was the Miami Heat. The Denver Nuggets were 2 for 23 from 3, and they missed, I think, 7 or 8 free throws at the time. And they were up by 2, Scotty. They were up by 2. And I'm thinking to myself, how did the Miami Heat win this game? like the fact that we're playing and shooting one of the worst I've ever seen, and we're up by 2? I just felt so good. And I just knew at that point, I was just like, this game is over. It's over before it even got to the second half. Jokic finished with 28. And obviously, a lot of players didn't shoot very well for the Denver Nuggets. You had Murray came in 14 points. Porter 16.
Not named Jokic.
Everyone not named Jokic, correct. It was brutal. But either way, that it was enough to get the job done. Strangely enough, Jimmy Butler was kind of at one point in the probably halfway through the early on in the second quarter, he had 8 points. At the end of 3, I think he had 8 points. And I was just like, where did Jimmy go? He was gone. He finally showed up in the final, couple minutes of the game to hit some shots, but
to hit some free throws.
Yeah, and that was pretty much it. Bam's looking around like, wait, where's my teammate that has been so consistent for the most part, getting us to this final game? I didn't feel like the Miami Heat had it. There was a lot of talk with Tyler Hero coming back. He never ended up coming back. Coach Spo was like, oh yeah, we maybe I'll reevaluate that. Maybe I would have brought him back. I told you at the beginning of the series, Scotty, if they bring him back to play in this series early on, I just feel like he has a pin in his hand. He's not ready. It hurts when he shoots. It's desperation, and they didn't even bring him back. I was like, okay, well, That just shows you that right there. But Scotty, it was a grindy win, and the Nuggets have shown that they could win games in a lot of different ways over the course of the playoffs. They can beat you 134 to 128 in a game, like they did in some of those high-scoring games in Phoenix. They had some of those grindy games like they had in the last game of the NBA Finals. They had bad shooting nights over the course of the playoffs too, and they still find other ways to win when they're not shooting well from three. When there was guys that didn't have a great game from the starting lineup, there was one or two guys from the bench that showed up and made up for it. It was consistency that went through over the course of the playoffs. And that's why the Denver Nuggets are NBA champions. I mean, this run, we talk a lot about in our Discord last night, and a lot of people out there are saying, oh, they didn't beat anybody. But I feel like it's just not validating how good this team really is, how good they were from the beginning of the season when they were a number one seed, all the way to the very end when they wrapped up an NBA title. I mean, you got to give that some credit, Scotty. And, you were watching the game from home. What were your thoughts on the game? What were your thoughts on just everything that took place that night?
I mean, listen, they were down 7 at half, and I couldn't have been less concerned with whether they were going to win the game or not.
Yeah.
They were 1 of 15 from 3 in the first half, down 7, playing offensively, just couldn't shoot to save their lives. And they were only down 7. And I'm like, how are they only down 7 points right now? That doesn't feel real. Had to grind it out. All year, Chris, I feel like everybody was just like, yeah, the Nuggets can't play defense, though. Can't play defense. Well, in 4 of the 5 games, they hold Miami under 100 points in the NBA Final. All right. It was some of that Miami's offense? Yeah, probably.
Top 5 defense overall in the playoffs. Top 5.
But way less respect than they deserve for the defensive performance they can have, and they put pressure on people. Do they have the rim protector? No. That's like the one thing everyone just looks at. Like, well, you don't have a rim protector. It's like, okay, but you can still affect shots in the paint. You can still, Joker, for not being a shot blocker, gets in passing lanes, makes steals, strips balls, does all the other things that you look for to create turnovers and opportunities and outlets in the fast break game. So obviously Joker was by far the best player for the Nuggets in the closeout game. He went 12 of 16. The rest of the team went, like, if I do quick math right here, they went 26 of 68. Like, he was, he almost made 33% of their shots in total. So 16 boards, only 4 assists because no one could hit the broadside of a barn. But ultimately, like, every three, look, Chris, and I think Cuban was talking about MPJ couldn't hit anything, but the one time he hit one, Chris, on that he got like a rebound outlet, pulled up, and everyone in the gym arena was probably just like, no, and then it went in, and they like, there was nothing I wanted more in that game. Every time Michael Porter Jr. shot, I was just like up on my feet, like, please go in, and it never. He played great, not from 3, but like he played well. He played well. He had like a sick move on a fast break where he kind of went like behind and threw his legs and got the bucket. Michael Porter Jr. had 16 points, 13 rebounds. So yeah, he was 1 of 6 at 3, but still 7 of 17 from the field, and a double-double in the game-clinching game. So I thought he played pretty well, despite being in a funk with the 3-point shooting. Murray was an all-around, 14, 8, and 8, so almost a triple-double there. Didn't have his shot. Like, no one had their shot. No one. We went 5 of 28 from 3, Chris. 5 of 28 from 3. That's called 18%. That's not great. That doesn't win a lot of games in an NBA final. Nope. Fortunately, Miami went like 26% from the field, or from 3-point. So, and 34% from overall for Miami. So Miami couldn't hit anything. Our defense was suffocating. They got a lot. The Nuggets couldn't even make a free throw. They missed 10 free throws. 13 of 23 from the line in this game. They still get it done. Even, Butler is allowed to now kick Aaron Gordon in the balls and get a 3-point shot out of it. So that's a cool new.
I can feel it all the way down.
I wasn't aware of. That's a lot of fun, but ultimately, this series was just not close as far as talent. I mean, credit to Miami for making this far, but eventually that was going to run out. And the Nuggets, being the far superior team, they dominated these playoffs, going 16-4. They were just clearly the best team in the postseason this year. And everyone can talk about, well, you didn't have to play this team or this team or this team. They would have beat every single one of those teams, without a doubt.
100%.
Like, they were just the best team, and it was obvious from the get-go. I mean, I think Minnesota was actually, everyone clowned on us beating Minnesota. Minnesota played well. And then obviously, like, yeah, we dropped two.
Well, let's be nice. Let's
Phoenix
be nice.
to go, get to 2-2 in that series, but that took insane performances in back-to-back games from Booker and Durant. Like, it wasn't repeatable. And then in games 5 and 6, we won by like 17 and 26. Like, we blew them out in games 5 and 6. So this team dominated. They deserve the title. They deserve everything about it. And let's run it back, Chris.
Let's run it back, baby. The foul was the NBA showing how powerful they believe AG's crotch is. Yeah. Congrats to Denver Nuggets as Canada. What's up, Canada? Congrats to anyone from Denver. Appreciate that love. Thank you. Say something nice about the Denver Nuggets wins. I mean, obviously they were quality wins, Brendan. They were quality wins, and they did it in dominant fashion from the start of the playoffs all the way to the very end. They only lost 4 games. I'm going to get into the legacy aspect of this here in a little bit, so I won't dive too much in on that quite yet. But your boy from Kansas, Scotty, Christian Brown, 5th player to win a national title and an NBA title in consecutive years, joining Billy Thompson, Magic Johnson, Henry Bibby, and Bill Russell. So
he's probably the best of those 5 players.
Oh, 100%. Magic Johnson doesn't hold a candle. Are you kidding me?
Bill Russell, I think that was his only NBA title, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to get to the homegrown aspect of this team as well. That's another reason, Christian Brown was able to thrive, is because the Denver Nuggets are very good at what they do when it comes to scouting and drafting.
Hey there. So what is everyone doing tomorrow?
Hey, we got a parade scheduled in Denver tomorrow. I'm planning on going.
Yes, sir.
It's always
I will be on a plane.
It's always logistically tough to get down there for a parade, by the way. But I'm going to try to make it.
Yeah.
It's at an awkward time of the day. It's at 10. And then not only that, but it's like getting down there, because driving's probably not preferred, but then you take the train or Uber. Train takes too long. Uber's expensive.
You can drive and park at Coors Field for $10, Chris.
Is that a thing?
It is a thing.
Ah, okay.
How close is it?
I mean, it's
in the parade, not far. Not far from the parade.
But part of me is like,
not that.
Part of me, I think I want to be over at it ends at the Civic Center Park, I believe, right?
Yeah, but yes, that's where everyone wants to be, and that's going to be a zoo.
It's going to be a zoo over there.
Chris, I don't like people, so I don't think I react well
It's
to
true.
that.
Yeah.
Bro.
I
Don't
don't
like
know.
people, yet you're streaming.
Hey. Well, he doesn't have.
Yeah, but I
he
can't
doesn't
visually like they're not around me, and they can't really talk to me except through chat, except for you. And I don't even like you talking to me in this.
Oh, you're screwed. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
CB also won his high school championships. Yeah, I think he won I think CB now has, I believe, 5 straight years of championships. Or no, he probably I think maybe in between, because he was at Kansas for more than a year. So never mind. Disregard. But he did win three high school state titles, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he's a winner, man. He's a winner. CB, he's going to be around for a long time, I'll tell you. So, I mean,
him and I have a lot in common.
But I mean, let's talk about the MVP a little bit. Nikola Jokic, first player in NBA history to lead all players in points, rebounds, and assists in a single postseason. So, I mean, it's never been done, and he wins his first ever, which Finals MVP, puts him in elite company along with some of the other greats of the NBA, and honestly, it vaults him into the top 25 players of all time. A lot of people have been talking about this, and there's a lot of people that are saying, okay, as of right now, I mean, even the national media outlets who have been crushing Nikola Jokic on how he has to prove himself. Nick Wright has him in his top 25. Chris Broussard has him in his top 20. Chris Broussard has him at 18.
Wright has him at 20, but that's the caveat. It's the top 50 players of the last 50 years.
Oh yeah, but yeah. And then there's other people saying.
To be fair, I don't know how to compare some of those guys before the last 50 years.
It's tough to compare.
Play.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough to compare them, and I mean, I feel like you got to compare dudes to. I mean, I've heard this argument in NFL and NBA and everything else. It's like you compare people to the generation you were, or like the time frames that are closely matched up with the level of athletes that were at that time. So it's kind of hard to take a LeBron James and compare him to, like a guy like that, I don't know, from the 80s or 70s that maybe didn't have the same conditioning or same strength and training or supplements or nutrition coaches, or I mean, you name it, top to bottom. Like, can you imagine if
he was probably smoking cigarettes at halftime of his high school games?
Can you imagine if Jordan had a nutritionist and all these like sports scientists that are out now, and like what he could have really been? Like, I mean,
he would have ignored them, Chris.
He would have been
like, I know better. I know me.
He would have drank, smoked, and gambled.
Chris, he like went out before a game and would golf and gamble at golfing and drink a ton and then put up like a 50 burger that night.
Yeah.
That's what Jordan could do.
But I mean,
which is why, there's I have so many reasons why calling LeBron James the greatest to ever play a slap in the face to the game of basketball. It's a slap in the face.
That's a whole nother coming in hot.
You don't respect basketball if you feel that way.
But that's coming in hot for another day. But today, the fact that Nikola Jokic, at the age of 28, has accomplished what takes years and years to do and is not easy, with 2 MVPs, an NBA Finals MVP, and he's only 28, and he still has a lot of years left. I mean, the fact that he doesn't fly around the court, like he's not high flying, dunking, all these. I mean, how does he get hurt if he's only jumping an inch off the ground, Scotty? He can't. He's going to be healthy for the rest of his life.
Pretty much, no lower body injuries for sure. Like a broken finger or wrist or something could happen, I suppose.
He just gets carved up in his arms,
hands or something. But he gets
carved up.
Those things get bloodied.
So, I mean, we have a lot to talk about there. By the way, after the post game, he was asked about what his plans are, and I think a lot of you have seen some of the clips of, oh wait, there's a parade on Thursday. On Thursday, I just want to go home. Yeah, he literally is going to be on the end of that parade, going straight to the airport and going home. But that's just how he is, man. He's not a guy. I mean, but I will say it was cool to see him show emotion. He was getting thrown into the pool at the facility down there. He was having some fun.
He loves pools, Chris.
He cracked a joke at one point during the press conference, and no one laughed because they're so used to him not being funny. And he was like, "By the way, guys, that was a joke." Like, that's just the way he is.
I think he's sarcastic a lot of the time.
Yeah,
because he doesn't take this as seriously as everyone else. And for a lot of players, that's probably frustrating. I will say he works his ass off, but like at the end of the day, like, I don't know. He doesn't like, I don't know. Nothing affects him. It seems to be like even tempered no matter what,
Yeah. And again, this validates everything. We're going to talk a lot about the saltiness of what happened over the course of this, because now we're in retrospect. Everyone's saying, oh, well, maybe in the grand scheme of things, he would have been the MVP. I mean, it was that last month or whatever it may be. I mean, when you're talking about valuable and you see him on the stage throughout the course of the playoffs, you understand what he does and how much he does for this team. and all the players around it, because he's going to get some guys paid. Let's just be real. And not only that, he's going to change this game much like Steph Curry changed this game. And I'll tell you that here, because what did Steph Curry do? He came into the league and he said, I'm just going to shoot the ball like no one has ever done. And he's changed the way players are drafted. He's changed the way players train in America. And he's changed the way how, like, you can't go to a park down the street without seeing a kid jacking up threes left and right. He's changed the way people looked at basketball for the last decade plus, right? Well, now everyone is starting to see, oh, wait, guys like Jokic are kind of valuable when they have the right skill set. And you're going to see a lot of people trying to figure out ways to get big guys who have that same skill set. And it's going to be easier said than done, but I'm telling you what, people are going to start looking out to Europe for bigger dudes. People are going to start looking out for bigger guys, because if you can't guard Jokic, if you don't have the skill sets, then what are you going to do? And so
that's a faulty premise. He's a unicorn. Like there's no one, and people. The closest comparison I've seen is like back in the day, Arvydas Sabonis. He was actually even better before he reached the NBA. By the time he got to the NBA, he had knee injuries and health issues. But like, he was at least similar in style. But like, this dude's a unicorn. It's not like Steph Curry, where like guys can start like, all right, I will practice day in and day out, dribble off the dribble, step back threes. I can shoot day in, day out to make myself that way. Like, you can't teach what Jokic can do as far as awareness on the court, passing on the court. Like, there's some natural, intangibles to that where you just can't pick that up. And for people to try and model after Jokic, I think is just a faulty premise, because he's one of one. And that doesn't mean he's like the great. I'm not saying he's the greatest of all time. I'm just saying the way he plays and how he does it, we've never seen another guy do it like that. No. And I don't know if it's repeatable.
Well, it's the decision making too. He's got the intelligence to make the right play every single time. And like, that's something that, the processing in his brain of what it takes to do things like that in a fast-paced game like basketball, it's not feasible to expect someone can do those types of things. But I promise you there's going to be teams out there that are going to try to find ways, knowing that this could be, and we're going to be bridging this, kind of segueing into this dynasty talk that has been kind of filling the radio and airwaves over the course of the last 3 days. But a lot of teams are going to figure out, well, how can we find something like that, or how can we find something to defend that? Big dudes, and you're going to start seeing the center position looked at a little differently. You're already seeing it. I'm going to talk about Victor Wembanyama here in a little bit, about guys who can do a little bit of everything. They can pass, they can shoot, they can handle the ball, they can bring it up the court, they could run that center point, they could pretty much play every position on the court. And bigs who do that are going to be valuable, and I think you're going to start seeing more and more of it. But Scotty, we're hearing a lot about legacy. And we're hearing a lot about dynasties. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm not quite like, even as a Nuggets fan, I'm not quite there with the dynasty talk. I know that's what everyone's narratives are. I like to take it 1 year at a time. And
well, first, Chris, real quick in the chat and respond. What are the metrics for a dynasty? Throw it in the chat. Like, is 2 straight? I don't feel like 2 straight's even a dynasty. I feel like to be a dynasty, you've got to at least win 3.
3 out of 5 years. 3 out of 4. 3 out of 5. I think. And then even in those years that you lose, maybe it's like you're in the finals, game 6, game 7, you lose, you come back the next year in the finals again. Those kind of things. 3 years in a small window.
Next year, we'll be referring to the Chiefs as a dynasty. And then...
Yeah, no.
You know we will. You know we will.
Think about this though. The Nuggets lost 4 games over the course of the playoffs. 4.
Denver has legacy and dynasty. They are dancers at the place Morant got in trouble.
Yeah.
The way to dynasty.
Dynasty.
Gotta work on the bot.
Yeah. Thank you, Cuban, for the biddies. Hey, guys, if you want to get your message sent out to the community, do what Cuban did and just add a note with some bits and you can hear it out loud. Nuggets only lost 4 games on this run. And if you look back at teams that have lost 4 or fewer playoff games, you're looking at some pretty good teams, i.e. some dynasties. You got the Warriors, went 16-1. The Spurs, considered a dynasty. The Lakers, 2002-2001, considered dynasties. Spurs again, a 15-2, 1999. The Bulls, between 91 through 93, 96, 97, dynasties. Then you had the Lakers and Celtics, only losing 3 or 4 games in their time in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. And then the Pistons, 15-2. 1989 was kind of, they were relevant, but maybe not as much as some of these other dynasties.
They won 2 straight, but they weren't a dynasty.
They weren't.
There was only 2.
It was exactly. So that being said, not a lot of teams since 1984 who have lost 4 or fewer games aren't considered dynasties. And so not only that, you combine that with dynasties. What are the recipes for a dynasty, right? You need a superstar that's always going to be available and always going to be able to make every single one on the team better. This is similar to a championship, obviously. We talked a lot about this. You have a star player to go hand in hand with the superstar. You have a really good head coach that can understand how to make adjustments, how to take a team from the very start of a franchise to where they are now, like a Michael Malone, and build a team. And you have great drafting through keeping your players and developing star talent. And I think there's a lot of things in that recipe. You mix it all together in a bowl and you add into that one of the best top, potentially as of right now, arguably top 25 player of all time in his prime. All of these players 28 and below for the most part from their core, from Jamal Murray, from Nikola Jokic, Michael Porter Jr. is 24 years old. I mean, all of these guys, it's hard not to look at it and say, this is our window shot. We knew this was going to be our window for the next couple of years. Everyone's locked into contracts outside of Bruce Brown. He said he's willing to take a pay cut to come back. It's not all about the money.
I'm still not expecting Bruce Brown.
Neither am I. But
the Nuggets can't even offer him probably what they would like to because of the rules and how it works. So, while I'm sure he would like to be back, and he said money's not everything, he probably won't be back. But the entire starting 5 will be back next year, Chris. And then you got to replace Bruce Brown, but Christian Brown's probably going to have a bigger role next year. Peyton Watson will have a bigger role next year. Those might be your 2 leaders off the bench. They're trying to build capital in the draft because they know they don't have money to spend in free agency really. So they're going to have to work means to either build capital to get a vet to come off the bench as their 6th man, or draft somebody, move up in the first round and get somebody. They have 2 early seconds now after this trade they made in the finals. So maybe they move up, or maybe they move both those to try and add a 6th man if they don't think Bruce Brown is back. So an important piece, but if the starting 5 is back, clearly it's the best team going into next year. Clearly.
And Vegas odds say they are.
Who knows what happens in the free, off season, free agency, and teams change. But
still,
right now, it's not close. It's not close.
And even then, you still have, you build that chemistry over the course of a season. I mean, having people in place over the full season is a lot better, i.e., not putting it together at the trade deadline like the Lakers or the Suns, where there's just cohesion issues. But real quick in the chat, let's see. Hot take: Cavs/Heat weren't dynasties. LeBron himself was a dynasty, says Rack.
Cavs only won one, so that's not a dynasty.
No.
And the Heat won two, so not a dynasty.
What about his first? What about his first iteration in Cleveland?
They didn't win one.
Really? That's how little I know about basketball.
Yeah, they didn't win one
Well then,
until he came back. He's got 4 titles: 2 with Miami. Then he went back and got one with Cleveland,
And then one with
Then
LA.
he got one with LA.
people are calling him the GOAT. Damn.
Yeah.
Serious. What's serious? It's been a while, man. How you doing? Serious OG, welcome back. I would say a dynasty is when a team wins a number of titles during a significant period of time. He also said, would the San Francisco Giants be considered a dynasty in baseball, winning titles in 2010, 2012, 2014?
By definition, you got to give it to him. That's 3 and 5 years.
Yeah.
That team was so bizarre because they were like
A championship or nothing.
I don't find them to be like an elite roster throughout all of that, but they won like World Series through it all. So by definition, you got to give them dynasty. But who do you remember? You remember like Bumgarner from those teams? Posey.
Sandoval.
Was Lincecum on a couple of those?
Yeah, Lincecum was there. Pablo Sandoval, the Panda.
Pablo. Yeah.
Brandon Crawford. Brandon Belt.
Brandon Crawford. I mean, no, he had a good career.
Yeah.
Belt loved playing the Rockies. I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't?
Hey, the Rocks are about to go into Boston and sweep.
Ooh.
All right.
So you're gonna copy the Cardinals?
I mean, let's just check the standings here.
Let's not. Let's not say we did.
Check the standings. Oh, we got a 2-game cushion on the Cardinals right now. Cardinals are the second worst team in the National League. Would you look at that?
Oof.
The Rocks are up 2-1 in the bottom of the 7th, but unfortunately, bases loaded, nobody out for bottom of the 7th. So may not win this one. We'll see.
Yeah.
So
also on the dynasty talk, would the Patriots be one dynasty or 2 small dynasties?
I just throw them into one. Just the same team.
But yeah, think about it, they won 3 or 4.
you had the
They
same.
went 10 years without winning, and then won 3 or 5.
You have other teams like that, like the Spurs.
Spurs did that.
Spurs had like weird, like they had the original with David Robinson being
2007 and 1999.
No, 99 and 2007 with like obviously your
The Manus
Duncan,
and Parker,
Ginobili, and then like later on you get like Kawhi more involved. Like there were so many iterations. I just assume that's like one weird dynasty. The Spurs are like the weirdest dynasty ever because it's so spaced out and it's so bizarre and there's different players. But
Honestly, I'd say the Giants one is more bizarre because when they didn't make the World Series, World Series, they didn't even make the playoffs.
They were. I will say there was a lot of luck at play for the Giants to win 3 in those 5 years.
Yeah,
but they still won them. So.
We need is it a sandwich chart about dynasties? we might have to. We'll have to put something.
So what's the hot dog? What's the hot
Giants
dog?
Giants are the hot dog.
Giants are the hot dog. Spurs are like the taco, like the I don't know, the Pop Tart or something. The Spurs are they're the Pop Tart. Hey, it's on the.
Has anyone ever argued that a Pop Tart is a sandwich?
Yes.
It's on the. It's on the chart.
Eliminate those people from my life.
It's on the chart.
If you consider a Pop Tart a sandwich, I don't know what.
No, people consider pizza.
Life wrong.
Some people consider pizza a sandwich.
How is pizza a sandwich?
You fold it over.
Do people not know what sandwiches? I get so mad talking about sandwiches. Do people not know what a sandwich is? I'd at least like accept like a calzone or something more than a pizza.
Yeah.
At least there's 2 sides to the bread.
That's true.
Calzones are now officially sandwiches.
I mean, say to the face.
I don't like that either. They're calzones. You don't go to a place and order like a sausage and pepperoni sandwich. You order sausage and pepperoni calzone.
Yeah, that's true.
We're off the track. I apologize, Chris. Get us back on track.
No, you're good.
Let's get to hockey.
Chairman, the Braves were a dynasty in the 90s, but only won one World Series.
I mean, the Braves were not a dynasty because they only won. They were so good. They were the best team in the 90s, quite frankly, and underachieved. And they blew it. They blew it. I mean, they literally had a rotation of Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz. How you don't win more with that? With like David Justice,
you have to have
Ron
the championships
Gant.
to go with it. You have to have the championships to go with it, and like it's got to be.
They're like the Bills of the '90s. The Bills got 0. At least the Braves got 1. But
yeah,
kind of like the Bills.
Serious. We'll get to your question about the Texas Rangers in a little bit. Don't worry, we'll come back to it. Hey, congrats on the Nuggets, says WD Kong. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate it. Big time. We got the parade tomorrow. So, Chairman, they went to 5 World Series. It's a dynasty. They were the team to beat that whole decade.
Okay.
And they got beat a lot as the team to beat. You can't be a dynasty when you win 1 title. I don't care if you go to 5 World Series.
It's like at that rate,
you're not a dynasty winning 1 title.
At that logic, the Steelers are a dynasty.
I mean,
how they won 2.
You want to say
the Broncos are
they were the best. if you want to say that the Braves were the best team in the 90s, I may not argue that, but they're not a dynasty because they only won 1.
Yeah,
and they only have themselves to blame.
I mean, Broncos went to a bunch of championships and lost. No one considers the Broncos a dynasty from those olden days of John Elway.
No one even remembers those games. They lost each of those by 100.
It's true. But Scotty, so going back to my question about this. Going back to the question about the finals and the Nuggets and like projecting out, because it's the hot topic. Do you think the Nuggets will be a dynasty in 3 or 4 years?
I think I think they win. I think I'd be disappointed if they don't win 2 more. If they get to 3, it's a good number. And to be honest, I do have questions about how long Joker plays.
I was thinking about this after he said his thing about I just want to go home. Like, I know he likes basketball a lot. I know he might love basketball, but I think he loves other things more.
It's a job to him.
It's a job.
And he stated as much of that. So now, do most people get through like age 35 of their job? They do. But does he have to? No, he's going to go back to like Serbia after he's done with his career and just live out his best life.
Yeah.
With horse racing and whatever he loves out there. So that's a concern, but I would hope this is aggressive, but like 2 in the next 4 years doesn't seem crazy to me.
No,
with how good they are. Now, obviously, you got to stay healthy. But if they're healthy in the playoffs, they're right now, as we speak, clearly the best team. Oh, so things can change, obviously, with movement or trades or free agency or whatever. We'll get into that a little bit here, but the Nuggets are set up very, very well. They have a lot of their guys under contract, and they play great together. Jokic is a great guy to have as the leader of your team because he will facilitate. He'll do whatever it takes to win. Like, he will score if he needs to score. He'll pass if he's doubled or whatever. He rebounds. He does it all. So like, this team is set up really. I mean, obviously we played pretty decent in the playoffs, but like, I don't think offensively. I think we played worse offensively in the finals than any other series throughout the playoffs, and we still won in 5.
Yeah, I think
we couldn't shoot. We couldn't shoot in the finals.
If you were to ask me, about this question as well. I think for me, it's hard for me to not say my number was 2 in the next 3 or 4 years. My number was 2, and not only that, but the 3 or 4 years, let's say the 1 or 2 years they don't get there, they're going to be competitive if they're healthy, and they're going to be in those finals conversations, in the Western Conference Finals conversations every single year. It doesn't matter. For the next 4 or 5 years, they're going to be in that conversation if everyone stays healthy, which to me, I can predict that to be a dynasty in that sense. So, I mean,
Cuban said until 2029, I think he'll be 31. He's 28 now, so no, that math doesn't check out. He's 28 right now.
Chairman, Wikipedia. In sports, a dynasty is a team or individual that dominates their sport or league for an extended length of time. But
that is very vague.
But the word dominant is not reaching the finals.
Like,
it's if you're dominant, you're winning at least. You can't have a dynasty that only won once. That's wild to me. I don't care if you made a bunch of World Series. That just means you failed. That means you failed.
There's no failure in sports. Remember, Scotty? Giannis told us that. There's no failure in sports.
Well, he'll fail probably for the rest of his career with that mentality.
I agree. I think you have to have titles to go with it. I mean, you can't count the Warriors if they don't win titles. You can't count them as a dynasty. You can't count all those rings.
You said the Warriors, but I don't think you meant the Warriors.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if the Warriors had dominant seasons but never won a title, or like only won one, okay. That's what I'm saying. Or like, same thing with anything else. Like how
many does Steph have? Is it 4?
I believe he has 4. Yes. Yeah. He has 4. Yep. So, yeah. Interesting conversation though, because I think it's going to be popping up a lot, especially with the Nuggets being favorites and going into next season. We have a lot to talk about for this team, but overall, I think that there's a lot to be excited about. If you're a Denver fan, there's a lot to get excited about. In this, Colorado is one of the best sports cities, and they deserve this. The Nuggets deserve it. The fans deserve it.
Chris, I don't know how well you did in geography, but Colorado is not a city.
Well, just state, whatever. It's you know what I'm talking about. Don't take my thunder, Rick.
Ban Wreck.
Ban Wreck.
Well, now you're banned.
I don't know. Peyton Watson played for the Denver Nuggets. I remember seeing him play at Long Beach. Oh, he's a baller. He just doesn't play because of some of the people in front of him. But
he came up late and seems like he's going to be a defensive stalwart. And if he can figure out a little bit more shooting wise on offense, like, look out.
The player who
I hated the pick when they made it with Watson, but might work out.
The player with the most balls on the team, though, if we're getting real, Aaron Gordon. Did you see him go out into the streets of Denver with all of the fans in his game shorts?
Going wild.
You got to tell me.
No jersey, no shirt, just partying with the city of Denver.
Oh, my. We talk about like Jokic and Murray and everything else. He is probably vaulted himself to like the fan favorite overnight just by him partying out in the streets, like getting mobbed.
He walked home.
He walked home. I mean, what a way!
Quite a bit after games, but this one was a little different. It was. I love Aaron Gordon.
Oh,
he accepts his role. He knows what his job is here. I mean, he was the number 4, I believe, overall pick in the draft out of Arizona to Orlando. For a long time in Orlando was like a number 1, number 2 option. Came here, clearly wasn't going to be that, but accepted the role, played phenomenal defense. I hate saying this out loud. The only one who kind of had his number was LeBron. But otherwise, like, Jimmy couldn't figure him out.
Nope.
He was great against Durant. in the first round. I don't even know who we covered. By the way, did you see Chris? This is why Karl Anthony Towns has lost his damn mind.
Well, this might be new to me.
There's a quote out there today, and I assume it's real. It has to be real, and it must be recent, where he said, "By the time I retire, there will be a lot of people out there that feel like I changed the game."
What?
And I was just like,
What?
Carl.
Like Karl Anthony Towns, like Minnesota Karl Anthony Towns.
What are we doing, man? Like, listen, you're a nice player. You got a nice 3-point shot. Could probably get in some better shape, to be honest. You aren't a dog. He's not a dog.
He fades in the spotlight. He's the opposite.
But the confidence is rampant, Chris. Like, for him to say that and actually believe it is wild to me. This is why, like, I think the world is going to shit. Like, people aren't self-aware. People just need to be more self-aware of who they are. And
yeah.
I mean that nicely. Like, who you are can be not the best, but it could still be pretty damn good. And that's okay.
You can know your role, man. Know your role.
Like, Karl Anthony Towns is a pretty damn good player, but you're not. No one is ever gonna look at Karl Anthony Towns as a guy that changed the game of basketball.
He's not even the best player on his own team. Like, let's be real. His teammate is gonna be more of a game changer.
Anthony Edwards is way better than him. Way better. Cuban, if that's what he sees, he might have cataracts.
Heyo. Cataracts. It's the first cataracts joke we've ever had on this show.
Yeah, I don't know why we haven't had more.
Yeah, true.
We've been too busy with the catamounts to go with the cataracts.
Exactly. The catamounts have been taking over this show recently. AG would be the new mayor of Denver if election was the week later. Also, he said that was the coolest thing ever, like Muhammad Ali jogging through Zaire. But yeah, that was dangerous AF.